In our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast this week, we're looking at the book of Psalms, Psalm 16, and we're looking at the life of David. David is going through some difficult times, as he often does. This little psalm shows how he is processing his difficulties and how he's working through them. And we see a distinct set of focus, that he's looking in a different direction. And he starts off by looking at God in verses 1 and 2. And there, as he turns to the Lord and sees him as his fortress, his protector, his master, and the one in which he has dedicated his life to, we see in those first two verses that he starts with the Lord. And secondly, in verses 3 and 4, he is looking at those around him. He sees the saints in verse 3 that he delights in. He loves these people. They are encouraging to him. They're walking in the same pattern as he is. But there's also in verse 4 a group of people that are not walking with God, who are making efforts to trade God in for a new model, who will ultimately pay the price of suffering and pain for having done that. David doesn't want to be a part of them. He wants to stay away from that influence and focus on those who do love the Lord and want to walk with the Lord. Now in verses 5 and 6, we move to David looking within himself. And he is processing and thinking through who the Lord is for him personally. And he gives us a number of descriptions of that. In verse 5, the Lord is his portion, he says, is my portion. We think of a portion as perhaps of food. We have a portion of food. This is my portion. But it also speaks of perhaps all we need, the full portion, everything we need, not just a little mashed potatoes here and a little peas over there, but he's the whole thing. He's all that we need. And he says, the Lord is my portion. I don't need any other side items. I have the Lord. He's also my cup. Remember in Psalm 23, David says, my cup overflows with the goodness of God. And so this is the cup that's overflowing, kind of going along with the portion, except it seems like this is even a fuller thing. And then he's my support. The lines have fallen on me in pleasant places. Indeed, my heritage is beautiful within me. So he has this support from the Lord. The Lord is leading him in right places. And thirdly, he is his heritage. He says, and that heritage is beautiful to me. Remember, the Jews were very much into the heritage of the land. The Lord has said, the land that I give you will be your land. It will be your land forever. I promise to give it to you. It's my inheritance, your inheritance from me. And God said, that is your heritage. And David is saying, what you've given me, Lord, is beautiful. I look at what you have provided in my life and how you have met those needs in my life, and it is a beautiful and marvelous thing in that regard. Then he says, the Lord is his counsel. In verse 7, I will bless the Lord who has counseled me. Indeed, my mind instructs me in the night. He sees a need for counsel. We all do. We all have the need for insights from others. But David goes to the ultimate source for counseling. He goes to the Lord himself. And his mind is instructed by the Lord himself in his life. And then he will not, verses 7 and 8, verse 8, it says this, I have set the Lord continually before me, because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. And so in verse 8 he says, as I look within me, my life is not shaken. I'm not losing perspective. My life is not falling apart, because I have looked within, and I know what is there is God himself, who has strengthened me and helped me. In chapter 17, verse 14, I just want to draw your attention to this quickly. We see a contrast. In 14 of 17, it says, from men with your hand, O Lord, from men of the world whose portion is this life, and whose belly you fill with treasure, they are satisfied with children and leave their abundance to their babes. As for me, I will behold your face in righteousness. I will be satisfied with your likeness when I awake. David draws a contrast here. It's kind of interesting. He points to people of this world, not terribly evil people here, but people who are satisfied with far less than God. They're satisfied with children. They're satisfied with abundance. They're satisfied with what their belly gets, their food being satisfying their appetites. He said concerning those people, they're not going far enough. They're too easily satisfied. I will be satisfied with your likeness when I awake, he said. I don't want to just be satisfied with what everybody else is satisfied with, the good abundance of life and whatever else we might have. My satisfaction comes from the likeness of God, of knowing him, to know him personally and abundantly. That's what satisfied David. He looked within then and he saw that the Lord is at work in his life, and he rejoiced in what the Lord was doing for him and in him. And so that's the third focus that David has in Psalm 16. We'll look at the last focus tomorrow.